All right, so now onto the cladding, which is a really cool step in the build. It means we've done all the hidden work and we're ready to sheet, so we can start applying all the finishes after that. So I've chosen a sheet just for purely the ease. I'm doing it by myself, a lot of it, so using a sheet is going to cover a large section. I'm going to be able to install it by myself quite easily. So for this, I'd recommend using a template. It's just going to mean when you go to cut your sheet, you can just trace your template onto it and you know everything's going to fit perfectly. So I'd suggest keeping all your cardboard boxes off all the products you buy, as they're going to create really good templates. So we can just do it by starting with it in here, and we can already see that that's going to fit pretty well. I'm just going to go around and trim up the corners to make it a perfect fit, and then we can go and trace that onto our sheet. Alright, so there you go. So we've got the sheet all cut to size, so we'll go trace that onto our sheet of V-joint now. Alright, so we've got our sheet of V-joint up on the table, and we're just simply going to get our template that we just made inside the van and lay that on and trace around it and cut it, and then we can install it on the walls. Alright, so we just cut our sheet of V-joint with our template that we made, and that all worked out really well. The template was really helpful. So I've gone ahead and cut a little hole for all these electrical cables to come out. That way it's just going to make the electrical fit off a little bit easier, and we can just attach a cover panel over that later. I've also drilled a hole over here for one of our pipes that needs to come through, and there is going to be a little bit of forward planning you're going to have to do when you're cladding your van for things that you haven't installed yet, like the plumbing. And so now I've gone through and I made sure none of the insulation is over the front of the battens, and we're going to apply glue to all of those, and then we're going to bring our sheet in and we can fix it off. Alright, so we've got our sheet in. Now I'm going to be fixing it off with nails with this little gun, a fix-out gun. They just shoot little pins, and so it's a good way to do it instead of screwing it. It just means there's less bogging we're going to have to do before we paint. So when I nail, I don't nail straight, I'm going to nail on an angle. That way the nail works more like a tent peg and it just makes it a little bit stronger. So once you've got it on and you're comfortable with it all, we can go through and shoot it all. Alright, so now we finished the cladding, and we did that with our templates, and we went through and nailed and glued it all off, and it's looking really good. We then went through and did our first coat of paint. Now the reason you do that is, once we put carpet on the bed, it's going to be really hard to cut into the walls down to the carpet without getting paint on the carpet. So applying your first coat of paint before you put your finishes on really makes the last step of painting a lot easier. We then went through and cut the bed, the ply for the top of the bed, and that's this piece right here. And we did that exactly the same way as our wall cladding. With a template, we marked it all out and we traced it onto the ply and cut it out. Now we used a circular saw and a jigsaw, and it all came out pretty nicely. Now you'll notice these little squares that are missing, and they're for storage hatches that are going to be down either side of the wheel wells that we'll get into a little bit later. Now we're ready to put the carpet on this, and I've chosen a marine carpet. So I just went and bought a roll from the local hardware. We've also got this contact adhesive, which works in that you put a layer of contact adhesive on the ply and a layer on the back of the carpet. You wait for it to go tack dry, and then you put them together and you get a really tight bond. So we're going to go ahead and do that. So first we'll just cut the carpet a little bit big, glue it all up, and then wait for it to go off, and then put them together, and they'll be all ready to go. Alright, so we've got both of those all glued up now and they've gone dry. It took about 5 minutes. So now we're going to lay the carpet, and you want to do that in the same way you'd lay a contact on a book, is work from one side and push all the air out. That way you don't end up with air bubbles. So we'll go ahead and do that. Alright, so there you have it. So that's how you can put your carpet onto the ply. So we're just going to go ahead now and go around with the knife and trim that all up, and then it's ready to install. So we've got most of the walls lined now, the main walls anyway, and we've got the first coat of paint on them. So we're actually ready to put the ceiling in. So I've gone through, double checked all the wiring's okay, which it is. We haven't quite insulated the ceiling yet. We're going to do that as we're going, because gravity can be quite a punish when you're trying to hold insulation in the ceiling. So we're just going to feed it in as we're putting the boards on. We're going to start from the middle and work our way out. That way the two pieces on each side are going to be approximately the same size, which should make it look really nice at the end. I've gone with cedar. It's not only got a really nice grain to it, but it's really light weight, and it's really good moisture resistant as well, in the way that it doesn't expand and contract as much as most timbers do. This means that our gaps in the ceiling won't open up and close over time. They should just stay the same from the day we install them, which is exciting. So let's jump down to the side. I'm pretty excited to show you guys the projector screen that's going to be able to pull out of the ceiling. So I made up a little box and we'll show you that. Alright now guys, I wasn't going to show you this. I was actually going to keep it a secret, but now I've got it in. I'm so excited, I've just got to show you. So we're going to be putting a recessed projector screen in the ceiling of this van. So we'll just be able to pull it out of the ceiling once it's all done. And to do that, I've just made up this box. It's a box inside of a box. So you'll see this box here is just going to pull down, and that will have the projector screen in it, and then that will just go back up into the ceiling like that. Now I'll put little balls in there, little ball catchers, so that's what holds it up there and it will stop it rattling around. So that's pretty cool. So now we're all ready to do the ceiling. Let's jump in and start putting some ceiling boards on. Alright, so the lining of the van's coming along really nicely. We got the main walls done a while ago, and then we've just completed the cedar ceiling, and it's come up really nice. Now we will have to still sand that and apply an oil to finish it off really nicely, but we can just get to that after this step. So all that's left is the rear door and the sliding door. And instead of remaking templates like we have for all the other panels, we're actually just gonna trace the factory templates that I have here. There's not really much point in remaking something that we already have. So we're gonna do a little cheat, and we're gonna use them to speed the process up. One thing is, I did hold these up and lined it up, and I marked the V-joint on the main walls. That way when the doors are closed, the V-joint lines up all the way around the van, and it's gonna make it look really nice in the end. So we'll just go ahead and we'll trace around these and we'll cut them all out. So there you have it, guys, the van's fully lined. So we got the cedar on the ceiling, and that's come up fantastic. I just really love the grain in that timber. We got a really nice tight cut along the walls. We use a template to do that. But if you guys do have a gap along there, don't worry, you can just put a bit of timber along there, a bit of quad or a bit of beading, and it will make it look really nice as well. So we've got the V-joint on the walls, and we've got a first coat of paint on them, and they've come up really nicely. So we got our sliding door panel and our back door panel on yesterday. We used the panels that came with the van to act as a template to trace onto those pieces. And I just went around with the router and put a rounded edge on them too, just to make it look a little bit nicer and to clean up that transition back into the metal. So there you have it, guys, that's it. The van's fully lined, so you know the drill. Like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you on the next episode.